Hello there. Have you stumbled into an open manhole recently? Do you find yourself in the company of strangers? Well, then you might very well be in the feature underground. Every single week, we review a new movie currently streaming on the Criterion Channel. On this week's episode, we will be reviewing Michael Mann's 1981 crime, drama, heist, thriller, Thief. And I will. Oh, did I introduce you?
No.
My name is Hunter Lanier, and I am now introducing.
William, hello. I'm still here.
Yep, he's still here. And I will now proceed to read the synopsis. The contemporary American auteur Michael Mann's bold artistic sensibility was already fully formed when he burst out of the gate with Thief, his debut feature. James Caan stars in one of his most riveting performances as a no-nonsense ex-con safecracker planning to leave the criminal world behind after one final diamond heist. But he discovers that escape is not as simple as he'd hoped. Finding hypnotic beauty in neon and rain-slick streets, sparks and steel, Thief effortlessly establishes the moody stylishness and tactile approach to action that would also define such later iconic entertainments from Mann as Miami Vice, Manhunter, and Heat. Okay. I love this movie. This is one of my all-time favorite movies. And if I had to crystallize, much like a diamond, why it's one of my all-time favorite movies, I think it comes down to the convergence of atmosphere, in which I include mood and tone, acting, and this kind of very specific style of storytelling and pacing, which is somewhat slow, but ultimately very a kind of a still waters run deep approach. What were your initial impressions of the movie?
So I like this movie less than you, I think. It is good. Like I like the heist stuff is all really, really well done. It's very atmospheric, like you're saying. And I like the main villain guy a lot.
Yes, I did want to talk about him, and I meant to look up the actor's name. Keep talking while I do that.
Okay, yeah. But I didn't like the romance element with him and his girlfriend or wife or whatever she is. I thought she was not a great actor, and I thought that stuff was not super well executed. Mm-hmm. And there is a lot of kind of like corny 80s-ness that I bounced off of as well.
There is, so okay. There's a lot to unpack.
Okay.
but okay. So that actor's name is Robert Prosky, and
right, yeah.
I agree. He's a phenomenal villain, largely because he has kind of like a friendly uncle vibe to him.
Yeah, like he's so like warm and inviting for like most of the movie, and then it switches
right
immediately. Yeah.
And I think that works really well in relation to James Caan's character Frank, which is to me one of the best parts of the movie is his character, because his character, he mentions at one point while he's trying to adopt a child that he was raised by the state.
Right.
And there's a sense of him being kind of this broken child that grew up into that just kind of became more broken as he grew up in various ways. And the fact that Robert Prosky plays this almost I think he actually says in the movie, like, I'll be your father.
He says like multiple times, like, yeah. I'm your father. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of the weak point for James Caan's character.
Right.
And you see his character, kind of, everything that he worked up to that. He talks about being in prison, and that his key to survival was to stop caring, and that's how he got by.
Right.
And then here he is, with his father figure, trying to have a marriage, like a normal marriage, trying to bring in a child. And that's when everything starts to, you kind of, in the movie at least, is kind of logic. His idea at the beginning was right, where when he didn't care about anything,
he was fine.
Yeah, everything worked out.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so do you think, what was your opinion of James Caan's character?
Yeah, so I like James Caan a lot, and I really do like the dynamic between him and Uncle Thief Man.
Yeah, Uncle Thief guy. Yes.
Yeah, I like James Caan. Like he's got like the look too.
Yeah, he has that like really un-Hollywood kind of gruff you know,
He looks like he'll stab me.
yeah, just
Like,
just one of those guys, and a guy that would own a used car dealership.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think he is really good in the movie. Like one of the things that I sort of bounced off of this movie is like there are some performances that are like really, 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 really good. Like James Caan and Uncle are both like fantastic. But then there's some others that I like are really kind of questionable for me. Like I think his wife is one of those. His best friend also.
Jim Belushi?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know names.
Okay.
And also that old guy that they go to for the like torches, or he's like Q from James Bond. He gives them their stuff.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
There's a few moments with all those three in particular that I thought were just like, I don't even think if it was bad. I don't even know if it was bad acting. I think it was just like they just needed to do another take.
Sonny, if I can build something, it's gonna be a son of a bitch to use. Okay, so is it worth it?
So the movie. So one thing I love about the movie is that it's. I usually actually don't like this about movies, but this movie, it's hyper realistic.
Right.
You know, even when they're doing the heists, there's none of that Ocean's 11 like fun.
It's understated for sure.
Yeah, like we have this gadget that'll do this thing. Everything, even the equipment they're using. I remember I rewatched it for this episode, and I had the director's commentary on, and it was Michael Mann and James Caan. I ended up turning it off because they start talking over the movie, which I guess is the point of commentary, but
Right, okay.
it got annoying. But at the beginning, they were talking about the opening heist sequence. The tool that James Caan's using, it's a real heist equipment.
It's like a construction saw thing, yeah.
And they went through a lot. So Michael Mann said that they didn't use props at all in the movie. Everything is real equipment that they would use to steal things.
Right, okay.
And so that first thing, he said it weighed 200 pounds.
It looks like it does.
Yeah. So I do love the movie's commitment to hyperrealism, and I think in some of the like more stilted performances, I think they might be going for a more naturalistic. Maybe some of these people weren't actors. I don't know, but
Yeah. That's fair. I do like the sort of vibe of like you said, it's very grounded, you know.
even Willie Nelson's character, you can kind of tell Willie Nelson's not an actor when you're watching it.
Yeah.
But I think it kind of works because there's a nervousness to him, and I buy into his character at least.
Yeah. No, I mean for him I do too. I think I don't know. Maybe it's just like I said, there's just a couple of line reads that I don't like. But I like Willie Nelson feels sort of like naturalistic and like a real person. But there's a few others that feel like community theater acting. Sorry, not that I would do any better.
Jim Belushi would go on to become a great sitcom star. So
Oh, that's true.
He has a future.
Yeah, enjoy it now. We're going home. Tomorrow we collect. Just talk to Leo.
That's great, man. Hey, Marie.
Yeah, like I said, I think it might have just been a couple of bad line reads. Not
Right.
like
So now I guess let's go off of the 80s cheesiness, because that's the one thing I don't like about the movie is the music
yeah,
by Tangerine Dream, who I guess was a band at the time, because they also did the score for William Friedkin's Rip Sorcerer,
right.
which was a similar like very heavy electronic score, which I'm just personally not into. That's why I don't like a lot of 80s movies, is the synthiness.
Yeah, I think sometimes it works really well for me. Like there's an opening song where it's like this sort of like montage of like driving through the city or whatever, and it's like very synthy, but it's really like atmospheric, and it kind of
It is atmosphere. It did actually, when I watched it last night again, it didn't bother me as much as when I watched it the first time.
yeah.
But see, I don't like the opening music. Now when the music, so I love the music at the end, like the end sequence.
I'm okay. I was about to say how much I hated the last song at the end. We can get into it later. I really disliked the ending of this movie.
Okay, well let's talk about it now because we're on it.
Okay, yeah, sure. So I mean, basically spoilers.
Yeah, spoiler alert to people.
So Uncle Evil Man reveals himself to be evil, and our hero has to go and kill him and all of his henchmen. So we have this like really long, drawn out, like 15-minute sequence of him like going to the house and shooting everybody up. And there's this like super over dramatic like 80s guitar solo playing over the whole thing, and there's these like slow motion shots of like this dude pulling out his gun and then like
I'm loving this
shot
more
by
you're
the
talking
guy.
about it.
Yeah, and then at the end, our hero slowly walks off into the darkness, and we cut to black.
Yes.
And I thought it was very cornball.
Okay. Everything you just said, I loved.
Okay.
So the movie. So one thing that's worth talking about, and I mentioned in the beginning why I loved it, was the kind of unique pacing, where the first half of the movie is a very slow. This movie came out in 1981, but I would say it's actually less in the lineage of heist movies, and more in the lineage of those very cynical, nihilistic 70s crime dramas.
Right. Okay.
And the first half of this movie is that. It's a very quiet character drama. And then once the big heist happens, the movie kind of changes after that. And then there's the turn of the uncle character, even though he was always there's always something menacing about him.
Yeah.
Especially when we can talk about our favorite scenes later, so I'll come back to that. But it does change very much. It becomes sort of like a death wish kind of revenge action movie at the end.
Yeah, it's right at the end though, and like I don't know, maybe I was just really enjoying the like understated, grounded, crime stuff, and then it just becomes like the most 80s action.
Yeah,
scene
I don't
at the
know,
very
but
end.
to me it works because I think I get at least for me, I get so much on James Caan's character's side by that time in the movie that it's a big catharsis to watch him just violently murder everyone that was in the movie that crossed him. But yeah, I don't know. I love the ending every time I watch it, and I love the final shot of him walking into the darkness. And also, there's an expectation because of the cynicism of the movie, and like I said, it's in that nihilistic lineage. There's an expectation. I think when the first time I watched it, that he would die at the end, because that's usually how these movies go.
That's what I was expecting. Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that he just kind of walks away, it's sort of subversive in this little kind of subgenre it's in.
Yeah, I'm fine with like what happens. Like I'm fine with having that catharsis in the movie. I just thought the actual execution of that scene was like such a left turn.
Yeah,
it's very like jarring.
It's very operatic and big.
Yeah.
And big motions, where like slow motion, people falling.
Yeah, and the rest of the movie is like not like that.
Right. It's totally. It takes a turn. It definitely does. Okay. You said you didn't like the romance.
I didn't.
Explain yourself.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess I have a couple problems. First off, it starts off in a way that has not aged very well. It reminds me of Blade Runner a little bit, the first one, where there's one particular scene in Blade Runner that is like played off as like a romantic thing, and it doesn't feel that way anymore.
I'm not recalling, but I'll take your word for it.
Okay. And then we have a similar thing here where like basically they meet up for a first date, right? And he shows up, and she's like, "Hey, what's good? We're dating," or whatever he says. And she's like, "You're 2 hours late. Get away from me." And he's like, "What do you mean? What's your problem? Like, we gotta talk." And she's like, "Get the fuck away from me." And then he like physically drags her out of the place, and she's like, "Stop! Like, you're kidnapping me." And then like multiple people try to stop him from kidnapping her.
He's a thief.
And he like physically assaults those people. And then after he kidnaps her, they go to a coffee shop, and he's like, "Hey, look at this montage I made while I was in prison. I cut out pictures of dead people from magazines and newspapers, and I glued them to a postcard. Do you like it? That, by the way, that lady in the middle, that's you. Do you want to adopt a child with me?"
Okay.
And it's like, he's like the Unabomber. Like,
yeah, okay. I understand. Now, what I would say is that, at least my understanding of the movie is that we catch up with them in the middle of their relationship.
We do, yeah, and
Yeah.
I think they even say that at some point.
Yeah.
Like,
So there is, it's not like he just showed up to a woman and was like, "Hey, come with me." There's some history.
well, okay, so what they said was he's been visiting that like diner or whatever it was multiple times.
yeah.
It was a first date though. There was no like romantic history. At least as far as I'm aware.
And also they do insinuate that he has multiple girlfriends and that he's he's a scoundrel.
Yeah,
He's
for
not a good guy. We should
Yeah.
say that. Yeah. So again, that doesn't bother me because he is a bad person. I mean, he's a bad person.
Yeah, no, I don't like.
Yeah.
I find his behavior believable. That's fine.
Right.
I think it's very strange.
You just don't find the romance believable.
Yeah, I don't find it believable that she's like just cool with any of this, and then also that like the movie kind of plays it off as like less weird than it is. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they mentioned that in the coffee shop scene, they do say that she did some stint in prison as well.
Right. Yeah.
So there's these two broken people. I believe that there's a distorted, kind of weird Sid and Nancy kind of romance here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Bonnie and Clyde type thing.
I think maybe it just kind of feels rushed to me too, as part of it.
Yeah.
Like if
also, yeah.
if all that stuff had taken place over the course of months, maybe that would have been fine. But because we go from first date to let's adopt a child, and there's all this like weirdness.
Yeah,
it feels
and also
like 0 to 100.
Yeah, and also the movie doesn't really make an effort. The movie's not a romance, so it doesn't really address that directly in any way. The movie really is from James Caan's character's perspective. So you're seeing, like, in the same way that the uncle character is the father figure, she's just kind of almost like a prop in his life, and the movie's from his perspective. So
that's my other issue with all the romance stuff is I really don't feel like it serves the story at all. You know, like I think she does feel like kind of a prop.
Yeah,
and, like,
I think it serves.
That stuff out.
I think it serves in the sense that he's trying to put together this idyllic version of his life, and that she's just like a piece of it.
That's fair.
She's the same as like the two-dimensional picture of her on the postcard.
Yeah.
She's just supposed to like a puzzle piece that's supposed to fit into this image he has.
I'm good with that. It's just we're dedicating a lot of runtime to this.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
All right. Well, so let's go to our. So one of the reasons I love this movie is that there are many scenes in this movie.
Right.
There are many scenes in this movie that I think are phenomenal. And one of them I actually do think is the coffee shop scene.
Okay.
Because of him, mostly because of the acting in that scene and the atmosphere of the coffee shop at night in Chicago, where you hear all the utensils clicking.
Yeah, the aesthetic of the whole movie is really good. I like all that.
Yeah, and you hear in James Caan the way he kind of talks about his, screwed up life and the kind of patheticness of it. I love, so my favorite kind of character in a movie is, in fact, my favorite genre is a genre that I've made up. It's called the loser genre.
Okay.
And it's movies about losers. I love losers. And his character is a loser. And so him just kind of pouring out that kind of his life and all the sorrows of it. I love that scene. I love the acting in that scene.
Yeah. I liked a lot of that stuff too. It feels, like I said, it feels like very rushed to me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's a movie. We only have 2 hours or whatever to get through everything. But
right.
I don't know. It feels like if we had kind of spread the development of their relationship over a little bit more time, I would have.
Yeah.
It would have been.
And I get that, but I would still say that the relationship is kind of, it's like a piece of a thing. It's not. They don't make the effort to really flesh it out that much. But anyway, so my other favorite scene, it's not even a scene, it's just it's just a shot. And this is one of my all-time favorite shots in movies. It's after they pull off the big job, the big bank, and Jim Belushi is in there collecting the diamonds, and James Caan's outside the bank.
Right.
And he just kind of pulls up a chair, and he sits down, and he lights a cigarette.
Yeah, that is a really good shot.
He just kind of sits there, and there's a look on his face of, it's like this is the one thing in life he's good at, and there's a look on his face that you don't see anywhere else in the movie, where he's kind of like a little prideful, a little satisfied, like, oh, I did a good job, I did it.
Yeah, that is a really good moment.
Yeah, and a lot of that is just James Caan's performance, where it's so impactful. He doesn't say a word, but you just see it all on his face.
Yeah, he is excellent. There's a lot of like shots that made me stop and be like, wow, that's a really cool shot.
Yeah.
Like I love the one I think like near the beginning of the movie where he goes and talks to that guy who's fishing and gives him a Danish or whatever. But there's a shot from behind them where they're like totally silhouetted, and then you get this like it's like this bright purple like ocean and sky.
Yeah, I love that scene
so
too.
good.
Yeah, and him talking to that guy, it really cements his character. One of the reasons I love that character again is his character as the outcast in society.
Yeah.
These are the kinds of people he hangs out with. Like, even though he has millions of dollars from stealing from banks, he's not hanging out with some Wall Street guy or some wealthy CEO. He still hangs out with kind of the edge of society.
Yeah, it's really good character building, and it's really for what a short scene that is.
Yeah, he shares his Danish with them and stuff.
Yeah.
But speaking of the shots, this movie to me has, I haven't thought about it too much, but maybe the best nighttime cinematography.
It is really good.
It's just beautiful. The Chicago nightscapes, and especially at the end when he goes to his car dealership at night, and he has the lights that overhang over the cars.
Right. Yeah.
and and all the cars are really squeaky clean, so they're all like mirrors.
Yeah.
It's just like it's just a beautiful thing to look at.
Yeah, it's a really really well shot movie. I mean I know we were complaining about the opening few shots of the movie, but I love all that stuff. Like there's this like slow kind of pan down.
The opening is just the music for me.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
that's fair.
yeah.
That's fair. But yeah, like there's so many shots right there that I thought were like amazing. Like we went through a tunnel. That was like a really cool shot. There's one where we kind of pan down through like an alleyway, and you see all the silhouetted like fire escapes. I thought that stuff was really cool. And there's a shot from inside the car where like every time the like police scanner lights up, you'll see his face light up, but like the rest of it's just like totally pitch black.
Yeah, the nighttime photography is so good in this movie.
It is really good.
And it's kind of funny because like Michael Mann, after this, I don't think about him in my head as having good visuals. Have you ever seen Heat?
No.
Okay, well a lot of his movies, they're just not really, like, visually interesting. But like this one, his very first movie, is to me just incredibly gorgeous. All right, so every single episode, we are trying to end these on top 3 lists because it's fun, and we can talk about other movies. Okay, and this one's going to be our top 3 heist movies in honor of Thief.
Yeah.
Let's see, who should go first? I think you went first last time, right?
Okay, you can go first.
Okay, I'll go first. My number 3 is going to be a pretty recent movie. I want to say 2015. Hell or High Water, directed by David Mackenzie, I believe. Written by Taylor Sheridan, I think. I'm just guessing.
Yeah. Okay.
But I remember seeing this in the theater when it came out, and being really surprised by it. Thinking it was really fun and had great acting, especially by Ben Foster as the kind of runt, which he's really good at playing. He should just always play the runt in movies, like with the chip on his shoulder. Yeah. I thought it had great dialogue, great writing, and kind of we talked about noirs in our last episode, or I don't know, maybe 2 episodes ago. But this is almost like a Texas noir, which like No Country for Old Men. It's almost in that same Texas noir genre. But I've heard that you don't like this movie.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't hate this movie. I thought it was fun. However, one thing that I didn't really love is like we're from Texas.
Yes.
Spoilers.
But don't tell them. Damn.
Yeah. Damn it.
We're in the void.
But Texas is like a character in that movie, in much the same way that Texas is a character, I think, in No Country for Old Men. But like, where No Country for Old Men does that really well, I feel like Hell or High Water Texas is like cartoon Texas. Like they go to a gas station and like there's horses hitched up out front.
Yeah. So if I remember correct, yeah, I agree.
And like there's a confrontation at the end where like the whole town like comes out with all their guns, which I thought was really funny.
It is a little hammy in that way.
Yeah.
It's like this is a Texas movie.
Yeah, which does not
Cowboy.
ruin the movie.
Yeah. Now it actually was shot in New Mexico.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I don't think it's like Texas is like friendly to shooting. They don't have good tax incentives or something.
Oh, okay. Well.
But yeah, okay, I agree with that.
Yeah, so that was my one issue. I also just thought it was kind of long. I got bored.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was all right.
Okay, let's go to yours.
Okay, my number 3 I think is gonna be Snatch. Is it Guy Ritchie?
Guy Ritchie. Yes.
Yeah. It's a British movie. It's really fun. It's funny.
Yeah, it is fun.
I always think about the scene where they get stuck in between the 2 doors at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of good like Guy Ritchie slapstick. Okay, let's go to my number 2, which is going to be a movie you may have heard of. It's called Thief.
Wow.
Yeah, like I said, I love Thief. And it's a great heist movie because it totally ignores, because the heist is like the least important part of the movie. The heist is kind of the scaffolding on which all the movie is built on.
Yeah.
And it's really about the characters and the drama and the atmosphere, all of which I very much love. And I've already talked about it.
Yeah, it is good. Like for all of my complaints, the core, the most important stuff I think is like excellent.
And I will, even though I said the heist wasn't important, I do love the way the heists are filmed in this movie, where they're, like I said, they're very realistic. Everything's very heavy and kind of ugly. Like when they cut into the bank at the end,
Right.
it's this big goofy blowtorch.
Yeah, it feels like plausibly like if you were gonna do that,
Yeah,
like
it's,
that's how you would do it.
yeah, it's kind of clumsy. All right, so what's your number 2?
Okay, my number 2 is a movie called Good Time, with Robert Pattinson and a bunch of no-name actors. I think Ben Safdie.
Yeah, he's in
he
it.
counts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's really good. It's like super like edge of your seat, engaging. It's like stressful. It's the whole movie is like immediately post heist, and we're just kind of dealing with like the fallout of everything. And it's super good. I love it. It's filmed like super claustrophobic. Like it's all a bunch of like really tight close-ups.
And like Thief, it has, I would put it in the loser genre, or it's,
Yeah.
it's about a guy who's obviously a loser.
Yeah, he's not even good at doing heists.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
Thief is. Yeah.
Yeah. And it has, it takes place exclusively at night, right?
Almost. I think
Okay.
at the very end, like whenever he actually gets caught,
Okay.
it's the next morning.
Yeah, in my head, because in my head it's like Thief, it's a nighttime movie.
It definitely. Yeah, I think like 75% of the movie is nighttime.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in theaters and very much enjoying it. All right, so let's go to my number 1. My number 1 is going to be Dog Day Afternoon,
Okay.
which Thief is one of my all-time favorite movies. Dog Day Afternoon is just a little bit above that, whatever above that is. I love Dog Day Afternoon. It's one of the first movies I watched when I first got into movies when I was like 13. It's one of the first ones I went to because I loved The Godfather. So anything in that like 70s, I was gravitating towards.
Right.
Anything with Al Pacino. And it's just it's another heist movie where it's not really about the heist. It's about the characters. And like the guy in Good Time, they're all just incompetent. No one knows how to. And the heist is to steal enough money so his boyfriend can get a sex change.
Okay.
So it's just kind of like a ridiculous premise.
Nice.
And no one knows how to rob a bank. And it's such a great drama, but also hilarious. And it hits that perfect little middle ground between drama and comedy, where you're never really laughing. I mean, the comedy comes out of the characters.
Right.
It's not like the movie is throwing jokes on them. And it's also incredibly tense because the way it works is that they go into the bank, they pull out their rifles, they say, "Give us the money," but then the problem is that the cops like immediately arrive because they're stupid, they don't know what they're doing, and then it becomes a hostage situation where they have to keep all the people in the bank hostage and somehow get out with the money. And as they keep these people hostage, they start like talking to them, and the hostages start to kind of like them and feel bad for them, and it's just everything gets all tangled up. Like nothing is the way it's supposed to be. It's directed by Sidney Lumet. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. So good, and it's very accessible too. It's not like a artsy movie that some people might not get into.
Nice. Yeah, that one's on my list.
Yeah, on Criterion Channel, by the way. We just went on there.
Okay, nice. There you go.
Yeah. So what's your number 1?
Okay, my number 1 is I think German movie called Victoria, which it's kind of a lot like Good Time. It's like small time, not even really criminals, trying to pull off a heist, and it's basically it's all a one-shot movie, right? But unlike something where like is it 1917? I think. Where they try to do that, but like there's a bunch of hidden cuts, and some of them are really obvious, and it just kind of feels like a gimmick. With Victoria, they actually literally did the whole movie in one shot, which is impressive on like a technical level.
How long is it?
I don't remember. It's like 90 minutes, 2 hours.
Okay.
But it's a whole. I mean, they've got there's they have to choreograph like a bunch of cop cars and moving across the whole city, and like there's a bunch of different set pieces and stuff. So it is really cool.
Wow.
But it's also really tense. Like it's this Spanish girl who visits I think Berlin, and then gets kind of dragged in with some of the locals to go do crime, and you just follow them over the course of a whole night basically. And then it's a lot like Good Time in that way. It's really good. I recommend.
Is it the aftermath of the heist or during the heist or?
It's like the lead up to and the heist.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so you said it's all one shot, but it's like it's going in different
Yeah,
locations?
they like go over the whole. They like go all around the whole
Wow,
city. It's
impressive.
really cool.
Yeah. Okay. Might have to check that out. Is it on Criterion Channel?
I don't know.
Okay.
It might
Well,
be.
maybe I won't. All right. All right. Well, we've reached the end of this video, and it's a very sad time, but we must say goodbye. Don't forget to. Well, actually, we'll be here next week, right?
Sure. Yeah, I think so.
I hope so. But we'll see you next week. But before then, don't forget to find us now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, where you can listen to us on the way to work, on your way home from work, to the doctor, to road trips, place wherever you're going in a car. You can listen to us there. And if you're listening to us, we're also on YouTube. So watch us. And then go find us on all the social medias. You know, do I have to name them all? Is it important? Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, MySpace. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see you next time. And remember, every day underground is a good day.